So the
Yeah.
first episode of season 2 is called Sith. Lola, a former Sith, has built a new serene life for herself away from the dark side of the Force. But when a powerful Sith Lord comes from her past, threatens to destroy it, she is forced to pick up her lightsaber again.
Yeah.
I think this should have been the first episode of Visions. Period.
You think so?
It just the art style, the colors, the use of normally I like art things to be, so I'm trying to get my phone with my notes with the dog sitting on me. Normally I like it when things are more defined. And this one is kind of like the backgrounds and stuff are ambiguous. They're more like hinted at than like hard and fast. She's standing in a room with metal floors and windows and this kind of stuff. But it also reminded me of, I loved it. It's one of my favorite things of the High Republic. I loved it when they tell how different people experience the Force. Like for some, it's a song, and for some, it's waves in the ocean, and other ones, it's even in the Acolyte, they have like the thread analogy, which I thought was cool to give credit where credit's due. In this one, it's obviously her art is how she, it's how she connects with the Force. And the black is always creeping in. The darkness is always creeping in, which I also love because, as you know, I'm going to bang the drum of people not understanding balance in the Force forever. And this one just like hit it on all sides. I loved the character. I love that she was missing an arm and there's no explanation for it. Just the gray streak in the hair, like she's seen some stuff, she's been through some stuff, and then the action was just awesome.
Yeah. This one I love visually like a lot. I think it gets like, I think it gets like I find most of the shorts in this to be kind of like three out of 5 stars for the most part, like across the board, and that's like pretty good each
Okay.
one. This one's slightly above that for me, only because I feel for me the sort of expressionistic part kind of leaves me a little distant from anything a little emotional. Like it's very like there's a lot of beauty in it, and that seems to be the main sort of emotion I get. I don't really feel connected to the character that much. Um Through the short, it sort of leaves me a little bit cold, I guess is a good way of saying how I feel about it, because I don't I get the like desire to create art and things like that, but I feel the conflict within the character is introduced too late into the short for me to really like feel latched on, and then sort of at the end you sort of speed through an emotional arc. But the conflict doesn't come until I want to say like close to 2/3 into the short already, and then the
Yeah, it
last
does take
third
a
is
little
just,
while. Yeah.
yeah, it just
I
sort of
guess I can see,
speeds
I
that.
agree with your pacing. I had the total opposite emotional reaction to it, though, where I really felt for her because, yes, the villain of it, the Sith looking for her, could have came a little bit earlier into the story. But I also liked how she has this nice life and she's painting and using all these warm colors and all these great things. And I found the expressionist backgrounds and stuff, her world around her being a little ill defined. That's like we're looking at it through her eyes in a way. And then when the Sith comes in, I guess they could have even gone even harder on making it like, oh, now you're in a steel box apartment and you're on the run. And they really could have like ripped her right out of that world to nitpick, I guess. But I still had the reaction of, I loved how the Sith coming to bring her back into her old life is the dark side creeping into her trying to find balance and trying to do right by herself. And I also kind of liked that it was kept smaller, where she's not in like a village and a great person loved by all. She's just like, I need to fix my own stuff.
Yeah, I do like that. I like the idea. I think if that had been threaded early on, sort of the understanding that she was a Sith at some point, if that had been maybe conveyed a little better from the beginning, and worked that in with the visual sort of expression of the conflict within her, I think I'd liked it more as a story. But as a visual spectacle, like there's so much to just like to read into just on a visual level. So I love your analysis of the dark creeping into the bright, vibrant colors and things like that. So
Well,
I
that's
like
also why I
that.
would argue that her being of the dark side or a little bit corrupted, or maybe still a little bit corrupted, was there from the beginning. Because one of the first things that happens is the black starts creeping out of her hand into the painting. And I think it actually comes out of her metal hand too. So that would lead me to believe this happened in a big conflict with her as a Sith. And maybe that was her wake up call of like, I can't live like this.
Yeah. Is this the one So I did watch this recently. This one, does she sort of accept the darkness by the end as being a part of the painting, right? Like it's sort of it's there along with the colors, right? That's sort of where we leave off with
Yes,
the
but in a way,
character.
not of like it's going to be equal light and dark, but in a way
No.
of like, okay, this is always going to be part of me, but I can't let it take over. And that's the entire message of balance in the force. That's
Yeah.
probably why this one speaks to me so much.
This one, and I think that um every issue I have with this is solved in Journey to the Dark Head. That one, like a couple ones down, I feel that one sort of does what you're talking about better throughout the story, like exploring that idea of like the creeping darkness and trying to push it away or the conflict from within it, and then coming to the same that short comes to the same resolution by the end, um as well. So I feel like what's also cool about this short is that it does set up a lot of the thematic stuff that will be like explored throughout the other shorts too, like, you know, a Sith Lord coming in to try to either bring someone back to the dark side or destroy them, and trying to tempt them back to the dark either way. You know,
Mhm.
I think it's really cool that this one is the start of the series, because it sets up a lot of themes that will be explored in like every short sort of going forward.
If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. A young girl seeking relief from her days in a rural workshop discovers a legendary haunted cave with her discovers a legendary haunted cave with her friends. The cave's dark call will change the trajectory of her life forever. I also love this one, and this one I do not like how the characters look. I'm going to be very blunt about that. The
What?
characters themselves, I do not like the drawings. I'm sorry. I love the atmosphere, the tone of it, the weathering effects, the lighting effects, but the tone and the story elevate it so far beyond me not liking the characters. I don't even care.
Okay.
I
I
mean, I don't care that I didn't care for the characters. Like everything else is so amazing that I can look right past it.
okay, I love the character design in this so much. But I no, no buts. I love everything about this. This is perfect to me. Like this one um should be the standard for like short films in general. Like this is just so well executed from start to finish. From the opening
Yeah,
shot
the
of that,
pacing
like,
on this one.
yeah. This one, that opening shot of where you think you're looking at stars and then the lights start turning on and you realize you're looking at this like cramped workspace,
Yeah,
where like
they do
a
the
bunch of
total
child slaves
opposite
are
with it.
sleeping. Brilliant.
I like that they all had their. I'm going to say Irish, and I hope it's not Scottish because people will hate me for that.
It's
But
Irish.
the Irish accents, yeah. Uh, I just thought it. Not that I know a ton about Irish history, if an Irish person would like feel like this speaks to them, but from what I know, this seemed maybe not literally, but tonally in line with kind of like the oppression and stuff that at one point Ireland had to go through, and just kind of being poor, like just like it sucks. You're stuck in this rut, and these kids like at one point right in the early beginning there's not even dialogue about it, and that's part of the brilliance of the storytelling, and this is that they say so much so quickly. They kind of look around and they're like, this is the rest of our lives.
Yeah, this one is very like, yeah, you this one and then the one that follows this, Into the Stars, are both from countries that have had massive, you know, um conflicts from the colonization of their countries.
Yeah.
And so it's fitting that that fits very well into Star Wars, of like the Empire being the colonizers. And this one I don't even think they specify that whether it's the Empire or not sort of keeping these people down, but we understand, like again, as a Star Wars fan, you get the sort of like the setting within the galaxy.
Yeah, I would
uh,
assume just based on the rest it is Empire, but it could really be slotted into any time period in Star Wars.
yeah, no, there's something also really what's cool about Cartoon Saloon as a studio is that they're big on folklore movies. So their three big films are The Secret of Kells, um, Song of the Sea, and Wolfwalkers, all based on Irish folklore tales. So
Okay.
this has that feel to it where it feels old and like folkish, especially with the like going into like an unknown region, encountering a ghost that has a very banshee like quality to it,
Yeah, yeah.
and even the sort of demonic saintly feel of the Sith at the end feels very like children's like scary storybook type of a character. It's a
Right.
very feels like a fireside, and even like they even have that imagery of like sitting around a fire telling a scary story. That's what Screecher's Reach feels like.
Yeah, Screecher's Reach could be a folktale told within the Star Wars universe,
Yeah, it
which
really
I think
could.
makes it really even cooler. I love the idea too of, because at first they talk about the witch, or the banshee is the perfect word for it, given that it's Irish, um, as if it's not real, and then you find out it's very real, it's very literal, which I thought was really cool because I always wondered. Well, I guess later in life I wondered, not at like a 13, 14-year-old, I wasn't wondering this, but like, what would someone with like severe, dangerous mental illness do if they were also very force sensitive? And it's pretty much this.
Well, this I also took it as like this is headcanon. This isn't really in the in the short. But like if you wanted to insert this into lore, if like give it its lore, that Sith at the end is sending the little girl to kill her master that's been like driven insane through the
Okay.
darkness, just eating her up inside. So she's just like use the dark side to prolong her life to a place where her brain can't handle it anymore, like Gollum in Lord of the Rings, and has
Right.
just
Yeah.
become this monster living in isolation and then like eating people as they come into her, her cave and stuff. And the her apprentice, who is the one sort of guiding the little girl, is like, now you take like you become me now because I want you to kill my master who's still around. And yeah, that's headcanon though. I don't know if that's
No, I could definitely see that,
yeah.
because it's kind of like, yeah, that the saintly looking Sith could have killed the master probably at any point, but it's also now serving as a test. Like, oh, you were strong enough, you figured it out. Because I also thought for a little bit, because I remembered it. I only watched it when it came out, and until this past weekend. So I remembered it being literal, and then when the girl was talking about saying it wasn't literal, it was like in people's heads or the cave drives people crazy. I'm like, oh, is it like the Dagobah cave, like a dark side nexus? And except for her taking the crystal with her, it could have been.
Yeah, well, and she went in thinking it was fake, like it was in your brain, it was some kind of dark side trick. And when she gets cut by the lightsaber, she realizes it's real, and it's sort
Yeah.
of like it's a real threat. But I also that there's in this season, this is the first dumb kid short in like of this like of a bunch in this season, but like a lot of it, and it's the best like dumb kid goes on and does something stupid and pays for it in some way or another, or like gets in like way over their head. That happens a lot in this season. This one is the best because you find out she's been lied to in order to get like to do something for another person, and it's really dark and twisted, that and like by the end it sort of ends on this really unsettling note that but that her desperation, the little girl's desperation to be free, to have a new life somewhere else, would lead her to someone taking advantage of her completely, and then basically carting her off as a new slave by the end. It's really dark and really
It
twisted.
really is, and
Yeah.
especially because they have her and the bigger kid have like a conversation about, if you get a chance at a new life, you got to take it, or whatever the exact wording was. And at the end, there's this like tearful, heartfelt goodbye, but they're basically saying like, no, you have to do this. You have to go on to a better life, because this thing that comes down is looking like a friend. It's the face of a friend, but we know she's going to just be corrupted and evil and either fall in line or pay horrible prices. And even if she falls in line, she's basically selling her soul for a new life. And like you said, she's trading the obvious slavery for a hidden form of slavery.
And the design of the final Sith I really love because it's so unsettling, because everything up to this point has been this very asymmetrical illustrative style with everything. Like nothing is, you know, perfect on both sides. But there's
Mm-hmm.
something really unsettling about that final figure being sort of perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just sort of unnatural, even though it's like white and gives the presence of something sort of like angelic. There's just something truly unsettling. And I kind of, I don't know much about Irish history, but that has to be a bit of sort of, again, like evoking sort of a religious war in Irish culture. That's a huge part of them, is the just the wars founded on, you know, religion and religious iconography and stuff like that. That's so baked into their culture, which I really love.
Yeah, without knowing exactly what it was referring to in our real world, it definitely did have that vibe to it where it was something otherworldly, something, I don't want to say holy, I can't think of the right word, where something supernatural, but like in an awe-inspiring way, but the wrong way. It's
Yeah.
completely evil.
Yeah,
It
it's
also kind of
so
looked like a
brilliant.
sarcophagus, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it too, a sarcophagus. Yeah, I like that. But no, this one works really great, and the director of this spoke about, you know, a lot of things, you know, a lot of influences from just Irish culture being brought in, but the Screecher's Reach itself isn't based on an actual like cliffside in Ireland.